Welcome to Tough Times Radio on WELE 1380 The Cat, where we try to educate you, we try to inspire you, and we definitely piss you off. This week we have a great, I'm so excited. We have Officer Dion Joseph, who is one of the most famous law enforcement officials in homelessness from the Los Angeles Police Department, joining us today. And I have to tell you that I met Dion when I was out there in Los Angeles, and I can't tell you what kind of a man this guy is, all the mentorship programs and stuff, and so I'm excited about him being on the show today. We're also going to be joined by Mike of Sean's Outpost in Pensacola, Florida, and they have Satoshi Forest, which is a homeless camp of about 15 or 16 individuals, but I'll let him tell you about that. Please join us online. You can go to www.1380thecat.com and you can listen to us live. You can also join us on Facebook. The page is Homeless Teacher. So, you ready to get started, Brenda?
I am very ready to get started.
You know, we last week we had the news first, Brenda, and we decided that there was a more popular segment. Do you know, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Well, because I'm not up on that yet.
Oh, well,
Oh, yes.
All right, let's get started.
What the heck?
Asshat.
Who's the asshat?
You know, it's tough to be a douche. So this week, Brenda's already laughing at her own voice. So this week, we have 3 asshats. And remember, let me tell you, it sounds kind of derogatory, but I'm trying to get attention to the fact that an asshat is somebody through miseducation, being told the wrong thing, greed, whatever motivates them. It's somebody that does something that hurts somebody else. And so, you know, we try to highlight people that aren't doing the best for the impoverished in our community, and we try to do it in an entertaining way. So our first asshat this week, Brenda, is Dr. Robert Marbut. You know that guy, right?
I do.
And Dr. Robert Marbut is a homelessness consultant that was hired by the city of Daytona Beach. And we have been appearing at city council meetings, we being Homeless and Hungry, the nonprofit group from Orlando, have been at city council meetings telling them not to hire this guy because all over the country, specifically all over Florida, he did it in Key West, he did it in Sarasota, he took everybody's money, and the bottom line is he builds jail diversion shelters and he preys on the fears of the population of the community by telling them all homeless or need treatment and are drug addicts and all that. And so what he does is he gives them a cookie cutter report for $185,000. Well, here we are, 22 months later since I started fighting this in November of 2014, and now we're starting a new plan. Now, well, $185,000, Brenda, that guy got.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, especially when every single thing in your plan almost is against every piece of research. So that's Dr. Robert Marbut. And second, Brenda, guess who's second today?
I'm going to say it's Richard Pete.
You know that guy, right?
I do know him.
Well, Richard Pete, I don't know if you're aware of this guy, but Richard Pete is one of the homeless advocates that aren't really homeless advocates that are in the nation. And they're all over the place. This is not centrally located to Florida, but because I've been homeless in 9 cities in Florida, I got the displeasure of meeting a lot of these kind of folks.
I have to.
Yeah, you have too, Brenda. And these are people that, you know, basically say they're homeless advocates, but what they are is people that are making a living off the backs of homeless. They're telling untruths, and they're taking donations, and some of it gets to the homeless, but the majority of it's for them, and it's for, you know, and it's really, really hurts the homeless community because they're preyed upon enough.
Right, they are.
And so this guy, you know, I know all about this guy because I won't tell you any dirt, but I'll just say that he's in a movie where he claims to have a master's degree. He has no degree.
I know that.
Yeah, and he claimed that he worked for the Orlando Sentinel for 19 years, and he left without a retirement because of an automobile accident. His wife and his daughter were killed head-on in an automobile accident, according to him.
I heard that story, too.
And so, anyway, come to find out, verifying through the Orlando Sentinel, he never worked there. And verifying through the college, he never attended there. And so that, coupled with all the other things, makes him our second ass hat of the week. And our third ass hat is a local hero, Big John. And Big John, I have to say this. I personally respect Big John. I like Big John. I do have an issue with one thing. You know, Big John's been in radio for 20-some years. And he knows all about radio. If Tom Redman, the homeless teacher, were to go try to tell Big John about radio, I would be an absolute knucklehead idiot. And basically, what's happening here is it's kind of the same in reverse. You know, Big John trying to tell a homeless solutions expert that is recognized throughout the nation, has briefed the Florida Governor's Council on Homelessness, gives speeches to colleges all over the states about homelessness. Well, I won't call him any names. I'll just say I respect John, but I would think that that's kind of the same thing. So, Big John is number 3. You could vote on our Facebook page. B got all mad at me. You're not allowed to call in with your votes anymore because it drove her crazy. So, don't vote on the phone. She's giving me a big thumbs up. You see that, Brenda?
I saw that.
Yeah, and so don't vote on the phone. Yeah, okay. I wish you could see what I'm seeing over here. B, don't do that again. That throws me way off track. All right, so where were we? Oh, we were talking about our 3 ass hats, and again, Dr. Robert Marbut for making $185,000 with a false report. We have Richard Pete, the false homeless advocate, and then my personal favorite, Big John, just because Big John should not be giving advice on homelessness on the radio. Nor should he have other knuckleheads that think they know homelessness that have no credentials on his radio show talking about homelessness. Unless they qualify it with, hey, this is just my personal opinion. So, ready for our first break coming up. And I want to let you know that coming in next is our Hidden in Plain Sight segment. And after that, we're going to have Officer Dion Joseph of the Los Angeles Police Department.
We put fear in all other stations. Run! 5,000 watts of pure power. The Big Talker. WELE 1380, The Cat.
Sometimes what you want most from your car is nothing. No headaches, no surprises, no anxiety when it's late at night and you're on some distant freeway in a thunderstorm. Owning a certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz can be that anxiety-free experience on every level. You know you're in one of the safest and most thoughtfully engineered vehicles on the road. And with an unlimited mileage warranty, you can drive as far as you want for up to 3 years, with roadside assistance included. Your sense of confidence and adventure are as unlimited as the warranty itself. Now you can drive the car of your dreams and realize that nothing is everything. And during the certified pre-owned sales event going on now through May 31st, you can receive 2 years of complimentary prepaid maintenance and special financing available through Mercedes-Benz Financial Services. Only at your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer. You've waited long enough.
See your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer for complete details and limitations on certified pre-owned warranties.
Ryobi has changed the power tool game. With our power wherever you need it ONE+ battery that runs over 70 tools. Innovation that makes home improvement faster and easier than ever. You can drill it, drive it, cut it, sand it, trim it, nail it, do it yourself, all on the same battery. Ryobi One Plus, the next generation of power. Available only at the Home Depot. Now at Ryobi Days, our 4-piece lithium-ion super combo kit is only $129, a $50 savings.
With OnStar, you don't need to drive the newest model car to have the latest in connectivity. If you're not connected, now get select OnStar services free for 3 years with no strings attached. You'll get a mobile app that lets you start your car or unlock your doors from your phone, and monthly diagnostic email reports. Just push the blue OnStar button and ask for 3 years of free mobile app and diagnostic services. Emergency and security services are not included. Eligible on select 2011 and newer vehicles. Visit OnStar.com for details, coverage map, and system limitations.
Mommy, I don't feel good.
Haley is sick from a bug. Not the kind of bug you think. The kind with legs that hides in your home. Cockroaches, ticks, mosquitoes. In fact, most common pests carry things that can make you sick. Allergens, viruses, bacteria. The kind that trigger asthma and spread salmonella, Lyme disease, West Nile virus, and worse. Find out how to protect your family at pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association.
This program was paid for by its sponsor, which is solely responsible for its content and the views expressed. WELE, Ormond Beach, 1380, The Cat.
Welcome back. Brenda,
Yes, Tom.
how you feeling today?
I feel much better than last week, that's for sure.
So you know we have to each vote really fast. Who's your asshat of the week?
I'm going to vote for Richard Pete.
Richard Pete. Well, I have to say I'm going to have to vote for Robert Marbut. And again, do your votes online. And that's on Facebook. That is Homeless Teacher. And I hope that you are enjoying our show. We're now getting ready for our Hidden in Plain Sight segment, which is Poverty News. Today's news story is a grand jury report. How about that, Brenda?
I heard about that.
Yeah, basically, this is pretty legendary because what's happened out in San Joaquin, California, is that I've never seen this before, and I'm not seeing a big deal being made about it on the news, but what really amazes me is I've never seen a court tell a city or a county that they must develop a homeless plan, and that's exactly what's happened here. They see such an issue that they have issued 2 reports now, the second of which just happened in Stockton, California, Brenda, and they're telling them they must get a plan together, and they say the plan must have measurable long and short-term goals and objectives. It has to have an established timeline and an annual evaluation process. Now, I agree with all of those things, Brenda.
I do too.
You know, because let's just say this. Homelessness should be addressed like every other business. It's no different.
No, it's not.
And the problem we have is that in homeless services, a lot of these service providers throughout the nation are not measured by anything. You know, nobody asks them, how many people did you get out of homelessness? You know, they'll tell you how many meals and how many volunteers they had and all of that. But, you know, truly to solve homelessness, you got to get people into a house.
Yes, sir, you do.
And you know what the naysayers of this program, Housing First, say is, oh, you want to give everybody a free house. Everybody gets, of course, who's not going to want a free house? No, Housing First does not mean a free house. You know, I know, and you know, maybe they should even change the name of it a little bit, Brenda.
That would work too if they changed it.
Because, you know, the reason they should probably change the name is that's a little misleading. Here's what Housing First is. Housing First is a philosophy, and it treats people empathetically, and it gives the people choices. It doesn't force them to do anything, and here's what it's built on. You know, up in New York City, Dr. Sam Tambaris was treating mentally ill patients. He has a PhD, and they treat the mentally ill on the streets in New York. And Dr. Tambaris basically kept asking the homeless people, how can I help you better? These are the very severely mentally ill. And everybody kept saying, I need a place to stay. I need a house. And so what they did is they took the worst of the worst, according to, you know, what the public thinks. You know, the worst drug addicts, the worst mentally ill. They were self-medicating. They were, you know, dying on the streets. And they just put them in a little stability. They put them in their own apartment, and they case managed them very well over time. This didn't happen right away. You know, it was a learning process. And what they found is if they gave homeless people hope and stabilized them, because let me tell you, from personal experience, Brenda, you know, you saw me during my homeless experiences, right?
I did.
And this is no joke. I will tell you, my wife will tell you that 98 days of homelessness probably took 5 years off my body. It's a horrible existence, and we need to stabilize these people, because when you don't get but 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night because you're worried about your throat being slit, you know, do that. Just imagine what it's like for 3 hours sleep a night for 4 or 5 days, and what you would be like. Would you be grumpy? I wonder. Would you want to drink so that you could sleep the next night on the side, you know, on the concrete in pain? You know, I'm not condoning alcohol use, but you never know what comes first, homelessness or self-medication. And so I guess the whole point to all of this, and what I'm trying to say, is they took the worst of the worst people, and they found that if you stabilize them by giving them a place to lay their head, and you case manage them and ensure they take their psychotropic medications if they have schizophrenia, or if they're whatever, and you just let them sleep and feel secure, they have hope. And when they have hope, they have success. And they quit drinking without any treatment. And so, that's one of the reasons I believe in Housing First. Housing First is a principle that believes in choice. It believes in getting people stabilized before you expect them to make decisions. And it doesn't put conditions on being treated like a human. If you like what we say, you could promote our Facebook page for us. You can go on there. It's the Homeless Teacher page. You could share it with all your friends. You could tell them about our show here on WELE every Thursday. We do it from 6 to 7 every Thursday night. You can call in at 523-1380 if you have any questions. And very soon, Brenda, a friend of mine is joining us.
Oh, do I know this friend?
Well, you don't know him, but I know him because when I was homeless on Skid Row in Los Angeles, you know, he was the head of the LA Police Force. As a matter of fact, he has been the head of the LA Police Force on Skid Row for 17 years now. And Officer Dion Joseph has given speeches at Liberty University. This guy, you've got to go to his website. And I want to tell you about this guy, Brenda. I hope, you know, it kind of sounds really corny when you give a whole list of what somebody did, right? But, you know, Officer Joseph is like the epitome of example. He is, man, I wish I was 1% the man he is, because he's a Christian man. He has a wonderful family. He has the best principles I've ever seen, and the accomplishments he's had with the toughest population out there. And I'll tell you, I was on Skid Row myself for 2 weeks. 65%, I think, and I'll let Officer Joseph tell us all the exact stats, but it's around 65% of the people that are on the street in Skid Row. And I notice I'm really trying to get you to understand, when 65% of the people are mentally ill and you're walking around, it's not a very safe environment. So Officer Joseph goes out into this environment every single day, and he treats the homeless people of this community with the most empathy I've ever seen. He's legendary, Brenda. He's my hero.
It sounds like he's a very amazing person.
No, this guy, you know, and here's the thing. You know, you might think I'm like some weird dude if I was the only guy that felt this way. You know, but I mean, pretty much anybody in the nation that has heard of Officer Dion Joseph would say the same thing I'm saying. So he's going to be joining us here in just a second. And before I go there, I want to talk about a local business that you need to go to, Brenda.
Okay.
All right. Rocco's Yogurt on Beach Street. Have you been down there yet on Beach Street? Oh, my wife and I stopped there tonight, and we had some yogurt. It was awesome. My wife's thumb is in the Facebook live feed. And again, you could join us on Facebook on Homeless Teacher. But Tom down there at Rocco's Yogurt, it's a funny story how I met Tom. You want to hear that story, Brenda?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is Officer Joseph on the line yet? Okay, so we're just waiting for Officer Joseph so we're filling a little time, guys. But anyway, I met Tom because of Rocco's, because he was we had a big issue when we had all the homeless staying right next to the Volusia Tag office there. We had 120 people camped out there. It was a different environment back then. But how I met him is he was really having lots of problems with the homeless people down there, Brenda. I mean, there was, people were urinating and they didn't have porta potties right away, and I won't go into all the drama. But the point is, he had a lot of problems down there. But now, if you go to Rocco's Yogurt, there are no problems.
Nice.
And there's great yogurt, and I'd like to have you go down and have some yogurt at Tom's store. And it's right on Beach Street, right across from the News Journal Center. And tell Tom I sent you down there, all right? And Tom will give you some of the best yogurt you've ever had, Brenda. I assure you that.
I'll have to do that.
And again, my wife gives the thumbs up on the Facebook live feed. So what do we got going on over there, B? He's calling now. Okay, great. So, hey, Brenda, since we have a second or two, let me ask you something. This asshat thing, do you think we're going too far?
I don't think we're going too far at all.
Hey, Officer Joseph. Oh, you jumped in. I didn't know you were jumping in with us. How are you today?
Good. I apologize. I got caught up in an investigation, but I'm here.
Oh, you can't apologize, Officer Joseph, for doing your job. We greatly appreciate you joining us from Los Angeles.
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Now, I don't know if you heard any of the lead-in or all. I kind of built you up a little bit.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what I said to everybody. I just told him you'd been there 17 years, and I told him you have the relationship with the folks you do on the street. And I'm going to let you talk about some of the mentoring programs and stuff you started, but I want to ask you a few questions first. Is that okay?
Sure.
Tell me about the mental illness on Skid Row, please.
It's one of the most tragic situations I've ever seen in my entire life. It's as if people have thrown the mentally ill away and washed their hands of them. And their only solution that they give them that they feel is the most humane is to sprinkle pills on them in the name of civil liberties and kick them out into the street and say, yay, you're free. But the problem is many of those individuals fall through the cracks. By that I mean the ones who don't have support and family and conservatorships and things of that nature, they end up wandering into Skid Row, where they, depending on the severity of their mental illness, they often run out of their medications, and unlike you or I, don't have the wherewithal to go get a refill. If you had a heart problem, you'd go get a refill. You go to Kaiser or Blue Cross or ACA and get it taken care of. These folks don't. When they run out of their pills, their conditions already begin to exacerbate due to the dangerous, hectic environment of Skid Row. And who's there to medicate them? The hundreds and hundreds of gangsters and drug dealers and loan sharks who would descend upon Skid Row because of the recovery zone to give them crack cocaine, methamphetamine, spice, and heroin. And these things exacerbate their conditions, thus making them a police issue. Being mentally ill is not a crime at all. Any law enforcement officer you talk to will tell you that. But when mental illness meets narcotic addiction, it becomes a whole different problem, because now there's a chemical buffer keeping us, the fire department, and mental health experts from getting to the core issue, which is their mental illness. And that's how uses of force can happen. That's how suicides happen. That's how violence breaks out into Skid Row. So it's a very, very dangerous, inhumane environment to leave the mentally ill in.
And, there's a couple of things I'd like to add to what you said, because, in addition to those problems, you have the heat problems in California like we do in Florida, that once you have medicine in that heat for any period of time, it's kind of worthless, and you have them remembering to even take it if they have it with them, or it being stolen, all those other things.
That happens all the time. People, robberies in Skid Row are kind of skyrocketing right now, and because of the tents, it's really difficult to get a handle on it because so many people are now anchored to the street. And like I said, one of the top things that are stolen are cell phones, laptops, and medication, which is often resold on the street. It's really unfortunate, and especially when I'm talking about the heat. I used to always tell people, don't give out food and clothes on the sidewalks of Skid Row. That's not needed. Nobody goes hungry, and you can't. You can eat.
No, you're right. I was there. I remember.
Yeah, but what I do say is give out hygiene kits, and importantly, bottled water.
Yeah.
Because yes, people struggling with mental illness and coupled with dual diagnosis, these folks won't drink water. They'll just walk around all day and looking for their next hit, and they'll get dehydrated real quickly in the summertime. So yes, that's very, very important.
The other thing too is I'll just say that I have learned so much, Officer Joseph, from following your Facebook page and looking on your website. And seeing your opinions, because I'll tell you, my opinion, I learn more and more about homelessness every day, and my opinions have kind of shifted. At first I was kind of like, oh, well, people should be allowed to sleep where they want, but then when you see the actual fallout and the best practices on how to solve homelessness, tents aren't a part of that, are they?
Absolutely not. The tents sadly rob them of any incentive to do anything other than stay on the street and be exposed to violence. I know we have a lot of detractors who say, oh, they need the tents to keep them from exposure. That is so false in Skid Row. That is so false. The tents actually exacerbate the violence because what people don't understand about Skid Row is that every block is controlled by a gang. There are Bloods and Crips who've completely taken over the area, okay? And if
it was scary. I'm sorry. No, Brenda said, oh, wow. Brenda, it was scary out there. This is no game with Officer Joseph. Brenda is my co-host. I'm sorry, Officer Joseph. I didn't introduce you.
Hi, Officer Joseph.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Officer Joseph. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what happens is when you try to set up a tent, on a Skid Row block, a gang member is going to step to you and say, hey, this is my block. This happens every day. And if you want to stay here, you have to put in work, i.e. hold something, hold my weapons, hide my drugs, or allow my women to sleep in your tent. If you don't participate in that, you could be subject to being a victim of very serious crime, violent crime. Or they'll have the person setting up on a tent is more than likely an addict, someone struggling with addiction. And what they'll do is because they either owe a drug debt or they want to supplement their or they want to supply their habit, they'll willingly work for the dope dealers. And that's why we have a lot of tents, not everyone, but far too many that are actually engaged in the drug sales, the violent crime. And let's talk about rape, the violent crime. The most violent one to me, the one I'm so hell-bent on trying to stop, is rapes, the victimization of women on Skid Row. You cannot say you care about the rights of women and the homeless and their safety and be okay with the environment that puts them in constant danger. And the current environment today is putting them in danger. We had our rapes from November 2014 to 2015 in just my sector of Skid Row alone, which is about 25 blocks, increased 91%. In the other half of Skid Row, from November of 14 to November of 2015, rapes increased 171%.
Oh my God, Officer Joseph! I saw a statistic: 92% of homeless women have experienced physical violence.
Yes,
92%
make up 40, maybe 45% of the population in Skid Row.
Yep.
But 2/3 of that population have been victims of sexual assault multiple times. It's because of the environment. If we cannot see the woman in the tent being victimized, we can't save them. If we don't see the drug addict overdosing on heroin or spice, we can't save them. If we don't see the drug dealer preparing drugs in the tent, we can't stop them. And that's the whole thing that people on the outside looking in don't understand or don't want to understand. And it's not me typecasting people in Skid Row. The truth is, there are 4 kinds of people in Skid Row like anywhere else in America, okay? There are good people in Skid Row, wonderful human beings. I wouldn't be here. That's why I do what I do, okay? You have good people who do bad things. These are your addicts who, when they're sober, they're great. You find out they're smart, they're intelligent, they're talented, they're people of faith or whatever. But then when they're binging, it's that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde effect. That same woman who gave me a hug 2 weeks ago, now she's bashing people upside the head with a bottle to get $5 to go buy crack. And then you have the bad folks who have redemptive qualities. If you clean up or allow the police to do their job and clean up the area and make it safe, you'll even have those who are engaged in crime start to change. When we had Skid Row cleaned up and safe, we had people starting 3-on-3 basketball leagues, cleaning up the streets better than the city did. It was fantastic. And lastly, you have, sadly, evil predators. There's just no other way to say it. Now, here's the difference between Skid Row and other places with those four groups. Here's the difference. Because Skid Row is so concentrated, there's this cross-contamination of all four groups where the good people have to look the other way. The reason why I was so late calling you is because right now there's a gangster terrorizing people in a Skid Row hotel and around the tents in the area, okay? These folks were victimized for months, and this is the first time I've heard of it. I was a phone call away, but they were too scared to call me because the criminal element has a stronghold on this area, okay? Now, so the good people have to look away. The good people who do bad things, who are the addicts, they stay on the bad side longer because the temptation to fail is too great. You cannot succeed in Skid Row for the most part. Not to say that there are people who haven't, but the reality of it is most people can't, and they tell me this every day. The bad people with redemptive qualities, they stay on the bad side because their attitude is, my God, now if I can't beat them, I might as well stay with them. And the predators pull the strings. They get everything they want. You give the criminal element an inch by softening laws, by allowing encampments to reign free, they're going to take 3 yards. And that's historically true on Skid Row, and it's proven itself all over again.
Hey, Officer Joseph, I don't mean to cut you off. Do you have a few more minutes to stay with us?
Yeah, just a few, because I got to go help these people, man. It's really
well.
sad.
You know what? We're gonna just skip the break, Officer Joseph. We're gonna skip the break, and we'll do it after you leave, Officer Joseph. I'll tell you what. I have a couple of things that I wanted to highlight that you said, and here's the big thing. Wouldn't you consider us homeless advocates?
Yeah, I would.
I mean, you and I, we care about the homeless. I mean, we are out there on the streets. I know you've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of homeless brothers and sisters on the streets, right?
Yes.
So,
every advocate doesn't, and I always say some have 501c3s, others just give a damn.
I love, hey, can I steal that, Officer Joseph?
It's yours, brother.
Oh, my God, I love you, man. Hey, you got to see, hey, Brenda, you've never seen this guy. You got to go to his Facebook page when he, mugs up. Hey, you're real good at that, Officer Joseph. If you haven't seen Officer Joseph mug up, you got to go on the Facebook page because Officer Joseph is a very well-built man that goes to the gym every day. I mean, he's one of those guys you see in the movies.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Hey, so let's get back to the real stuff we want to talk about because today's show is all about mental illness on the streets.
Right.
Now, I want to ask you point blank the most important question I could ever ask you, which is, if what happens to somebody in certain situations. So let's assume we take the most mentally ill person, we put them in a place, whether it be a hotel room, an apartment, or whatever. We allow them to get some safe time to where they can decompress, from not having any sleep on the streets and being stressed, and let them decompress a little bit. And then we give them an opportunity to tell us what services we can provide them. You know what I'm talking about, Housing First, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about it?
When I talk, some people get the misconception that I'm against House First.
That's why I asked you that question.
Yeah. I'm not against House First. I'm against it being done in an irresponsible way.
Case management, right?
Like in Skid Row, there are 107 programs in Skid Row. I don't want to see not one of them shut down. I don't want to see another housing program in Skid Row because Skid Row is not an environment conducive to change. You cannot pull somebody off of the street, for the most part. I'm sure there are success stories. I'm not saying there aren't. I've seen a few. I'd be lying if I didn't.
Right.
But for the most part, you can't pull a guy off the street with a needle in his arm or with a crack pipe in his mouth and house him first because what he's going to do...
In his neighborhood, you're saying.
Especially if he's been used to sleeping in the street for a long time. He's going to walk right out of that room and pitch a tent, and he has a room that no one is using because he's still anchored to the side. I know this because I've housed 150 people, okay?
So case management is the key, is what you're saying, right?
Say Say again?
Case management is the key. In other words, you put them
Absolutely.
there,
It's the key.
and you've
it's
got.
the key. Now, if you want to do a house first in places where it's not like Skid Row, where it's safer, yeah, they might have a better shot, but in places like Skid Row, it's nearly impossible because, and you got to remember, you pull somebody off the street, you don't know if they have drug debts, and if they're a drug addict, there's a good chance they have drug debts, and the loan sharks or the dope dealers are going to find out where they're at and say, hey, I heard you got housing. Well, guess what? You owe me. You got to put in work and turn this place out for me. That's what we're seeing in Skid Row.
Well, that's a unique problem to Skid Row. I'm sure the big cities probably.
Yeah, oh yeah. All I know is Skid Row, so I don't like speaking on things I don't know. I'm sure it's happening in other places, but I know what's happening in Skid Row, and I just don't think it would work if you don't help them. Now, they always say, well, Joseph, what's your solution?
Yeah, I want to hear it. Tell everybody, Officer Joseph, because you know a lot more about this than I do.
Yeah, my solution to this, you have to decentralize places like Skid Row. Making places like Skid Row the end-all, be-all for all things homeless is a recipe for disaster. And any service provider who works here, now I'm not talking about an advocate or somebody who's pushing an agenda.
Right.
I'm talking about somebody who's working here will tell you that this is really no place to rehabilitate at all.
I get it.
So what I would say is if you're going to do house first, the best thing to do is work with the missions. I know the missions tend to be an anathema to a lot of people.
Right.
They just it's an abortion to them. They don't want to deal with the mission, and that's wrong. I was a huge skeptic of the missions, huge when I first went in there, and when I walked into the missions and I saw individuals who I arrested, and when I arrested, I said to myself, these folks are never going to get better, going to die. I wasn't being mean. That's just the trajectory of their life, of the pattern that people who engage in these things go. I saw people who I arrested who were clean and sober and actually ready for housing, and they're still homeless because they live in a shelter. Doesn't mean they're housed.
You're right.
House them first. That way, when you take them off the streets, they're already sober. They're maintaining control of their sobriety to a degree. Then give them case management, and then when you have space in the mission to backfill the individuals that are still in the street and help them get clean and continue the cycle. That's the responsible way to do it. Is go to the mission and house those people first, and kind of like I'm not a conveyor belt. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a continuous system,
right?
Where we get people straightened out first, and you have some great candidates in the mission who would be great candidates for housing, who wouldn't turn your housing location into a drug bazaar.
I get you. Well, I'll tell you, Officer Joseph, there's a big difference. I've stayed in Andy's shelter, okay, and there's a big difference between that and a lot of the shelters. And mainly, I'll tell you, people, if you don't know it, the shelters on Skid Row are extremely empathetic, great places, aren't they, Officer Joseph?
They actually are. And
they're not like out here.
Skeptic. I'm not a agent of the shelters.
Me either.
I was an enemy of the shelters before I thought they were promoting homelessness until I actually saw what they do. They really care, and they're trying to put themselves out of business.
But see, out there, that's different than what they're promoting here is the Marbit model, where they have people sleeping on the floor and all that kind of stuff. So there's different, you know what I'm saying? I'm telling people that I stayed in shelters all throughout the country, and I know shelters because I've stayed in 30 of them. So I'll just say that the ones in Skid Row were awesome.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not saying everywhere is perfect, but yes, I've personally eaten the food at the missions.
No, it was good food.
I've ladies' night at the missions. I meet with the people. They're my brothers and sisters over there, and I really support what the missions are trying to do. But once again, the missions aren't the answer. Yes, I believe housing is the answer, but I believe we should all work together, law enforcement, the missions, the housing programs, together. Until that actually happens, nothing we try is going to work, no matter how much money you throw at it.
You're awesome, Officer Joseph. Hey, guess who's on the line next?
Who?
Skid Robot.
Oh.
Hey, you want to quickly, I have 30 seconds left. Can you tell me about Skid Robot and what he's doing out there? Because you have a third-party perspective.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I
know Skid.
I haven't met him. We have yet to meet. We talked, but because it's been so busy and crime's been on the rise out here, I have not had a chance. But he sounds like a wonderful human being.
The guy that's painting all that graffiti out there is the guy I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually spoke, and we were supposed to connect, and I feel bad that it's just been so bad that I can't. But I promise you, if I get some time, he and
you
I
guys got to
connect.
hook up. You're both my friends. All right, we'll talk to you soon, Officer Joseph. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Thomas, take care, and thank you for all you do.
Hey, you have a blessed day. Hey, that was Officer Dion Joseph of the Los Angeles Police Department. And we have a couple calls. You want to take a call? Let's take a call, B. Welcome to Tough Times Radio.
Hey, this is Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. You guys are calling early.
Yeah, I called in at 6:40, like you said.
Oh, is it 6? Gosh, 40 minutes flew by. Oh, my gosh. I have to tell you, I was just on the phone with Officer Dion Joseph, and I was having so much fun, I didn't realize. B, you know what? Now I know why you were, like, beating me about the head and the shoulders, right? Is that it? Okay. So, hi, it's Chico and Debbie, and Chico and Debbie join us every week. And Chico and Debbie basically are folks that are here in the Daytona Beach area that serve the homeless, and they're good friends of mine. Would you say that's accurate?
That is accurate.
So, who do we have joining us in our Let's Hear It from the Street segment?
We have Ray Logston with us, and we've known Ray for, about 3.5 years, something like that.
Ah.
And he is an awesome guy.
Well,
to know him and to love him.
Well, let's get Ray on the phone.
Okay.
His name is Tom. Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Hi, Ray. How are you?
I'm good. I'm here, sitting here by the beautiful Halifax here by Manatee Island, where Chico and Debbie, I first met them, and they fed me a good meal.
How long ago was that?
A little over 3.5 years ago, I'd say.
Okay.
They're still doing it, and I pray for them all the time that they'll continue, and I hope there's other people out there that will feel the same, and they do a wonderful job of keeping everything clean around the island. I help with that, ground maintenance and stuff when they show up, and when they leave, I always make sure everything is picked up and neat. And
can I ask you a couple of questions? And I always, when we do this segment every week, I always ask, is it okay to ask you some personal questions? We're trying to educate the public on what it's like to be homeless.
Well, it is mighty tough to be homeless. You always have to be hiding.
Who are you hiding from? Who are you hiding from?
What?
Who are you hiding
you're
from?
Hiding from the police, really. You have to hide from them, or you go to jail. They haul people to jail for sleeping.
Has that ever happened to you?
Well, it came close a couple times.
So you never did get arrested?
No.
Okay.
I
guess
I'm one of the lucky ones. I just found spots that seemed like I'd sleep, and then the next night I'd hit another spot.
Right.
I never tried to make every spot, a repeat if I could.
Right. Well, I don't think that anybody should be running around trying to, dodge the police. That doesn't sound... How many hours at night did you sleep?
Well, some nights you get probably 4, 5, 6.
Wow, really? That many? I never did. That's still not a lot of sleep. So if you average 4 or 5 hours a night, that's still going to wear you out, isn't it?
It sure is when you're going all day,
How many miles a day do you walk, Ray?
Well, now I have a bike. I used to walk from beachside the whole way out, almost to 95 during the day, some days, for different things, up to Holly Hill, Ormond, down to Port Orange. You had to walk.
Wow.
You didn't have any transportation.
How long did it take you to wear out a pair of shoes, Ray?
Well, it don't take long. You can wear a pair of shoes out, a brand new pair in a month.
In a month. And if you have not seen my shoes from when I was homeless in Orlando 30 days, they were brand new the day I went homeless, and by 30 days they were held together by plastic bags tied together, Ray.
Well, that sounds like it. That really sounds like
You know, Ray, I hope Chico and Debbie will have you on with us. We're going to, all the folks that Chico and Debbie are bringing on with us each week, we're going to have a big party for them here coming up soon. So I hope you'll join us with that, Ray, will you?
I sure will.
All right, great. Well, can I speak to Chico and Debbie a minute? It was great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, here they are.
Okay, where am I at?
Okay, Ray.
Hey, you guys, how are you today?
Good.
We're good.
Hey, you know what? This isn't the way we normally... Hey, B, I'm about ready to mess you all up. Ready? Okay. But normally what we do is we do our feel-good story, and I shouldn't say feel-good story because that's not exactly what we call the segment. It's our random acts of kindness segment. But since you guys happen to be on the phone... and we happen to be talking about a random act of kindness that you know about it, will you join us while we tell this story?
Sure.
All right. Because this week's random act of kindness comes right out of the Salvation Army Bridge Bed program. And one of the residents who had a physical disability used a three-wheel bike to get around. And a few weeks ago, that bike broke down. Well, apparently, somebody from the Salvation Army took it down, and they found out it needed a special part, and you guys did something. What did you guys do?
Well, I personally welded the wheel together and put a handbrake on it, and bought my friend. I've got a friend named George. When I was doing all the bicycles, I gave him all the bicycles because he started a bicycle ministry.
Right.
And I gave him all the bicycles I had, all the parts, and now anytime I need something, I go to him, and he gave me 3 brand new tires for the three-wheeler.
Awesome. And where is that three-wheeler now, brother?
He's got it. The guy, I forgot his name is Dale.
I know Dale. I'll tell you, I have it in front of me here, but it didn't have a name. It just told me the story. So I have to tell you about Spreading the Word Without Saying a Word Ministries, and that's Chico and Debbie's organization. If you're not aware of Daytona Beach history, they were arrested for feeding the homeless. They have been advocates for the homeless forever. I love you guys. You know that, right?
We love you too.
So you tell everybody how they can give to your organization if they'd like to.
We have a PayPal account, and it's through Spreading the Word Without Saying a Word Ministry. It's www.spreadingthewordwithoutsayingawordministry.com. We have a Facebook page as well.
And the name of the Facebook page is the same, right?
It's the same, yes.
Awesome. Well, you guys go to Chico and Debbie's website and help them out, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right, we look forward to it.
All right.
Awesome. Well, hey, you know, while we had Dion Joseph on the phone from Skid Row in L.A., I got a text from a very special friend of mine, and you know, if you've been listening, you know who it is. It's Skid Robot, and he's texting me, and I told him to call in, and he's going to call in any second because I'm going to text him again right now because he's like, hey, you want me to call in, dude? I'm like, yeah, call in right now, brother. You know me, right? So is it ringing from Los Angeles now?
But you have 2 calls.
Oh, we have 2 calls? Well, let's pick one up. This is Tom, the homeless teacher. Who do I have on the line?
Hi, Tom. This is Anthony.
Hey, Anthony. This is my stepson, everybody. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Hey, great, man. Why'd you call?
I called because I didn't know. I'm sure he's not on the phone anymore, but I just wanted to thank Officer Dion Joseph for all his service. Seems like an outstanding man.
You've seen his Facebook page, haven't you?
Yeah.
See, people are going to think I set this call up, B. See, that's what all the naysayers will be saying tomorrow. Hey, AJ, thanks for calling, man. I'll talk to you later. I got to run. Hi, you're on with the homeless teacher. Who's this? Hello? Okay, so back to where we were going. So I told Skid he should call in. Skid, if you're listening to the show, get in on the phone. If you'd like to call in, you're more than welcome to. Brenda, are you ready to move on to our next segment?
I am ready.
Well, before we do that, I'm getting beat up. Call 386-523-1380. Go to our Facebook page, Homeless Teacher. And Brenda, so our next segment here is we're going to talk about the second news story. And so we don't, Harold, oh, we do. He's on the line now?
It's 850.
Well, let's give it a try. You're on with the homeless teacher. Who do I have?
This is Michael Kimbrell.
Well, hi, Mike. Oh, I forgot.
How are you doing, Tom?
Hey, we forgot all about Mike, didn't we?
Uh-oh.
You know, I got all excited. You have to excuse me, Mike, because you know I'm dyslexic, right? And backwards, and I have a million other mental issues, right?
I'm right there with you.
Okay, so I apologize. Mike is our second guest, as I announced at the beginning of the show, and we're going to be talking a little bit about homeless encampments. And so tell them a little bit about yourself, Mike.
So I'm in Pensacola, Florida, and basically I run a intentional homeless encampment here. About 2 years ago, the city passed a sweeping criminalization of homelessness, making it against the law to camp on public land. So we decided we'd buy some private land and set up an intentional encampment on private land to counteract criminalization.
And so that's what Satoshi Forest is. It's a homeless camp that you... And how many people live there, Mike?
We currently are at 15.
And aren't you restricted to how many people can live in the camp?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'll tell everybody, I've been to this camp, and this camp is located right next to a neighborhood. It has a nice buffer, okay, a wonderful, wonderful buffer around the camp, doesn't it, Mike? Tell them about your fence and how much room and stuff there is.
So it's about 9 acres, just under 9 acres. On one side, we actually have a creek that runs through the property as a buffer. And on the other side, where the neighborhood is, we put up a privacy fence.
Right.
To give extra privacy.
Awesome. Well, so you're not impacting your neighbors in any negative way that you know of, right?
Not in any way whatsoever.
Now, but what's the reaction of the neighbors there, Mike?
So naturally, at first we had the NIMBY issues of not in our backyard, concerns about criminal activity as well as lowering of property values, and we've been on a campaign ever since to show that it's just the opposite of that. That most of the people that stay on our property are over the age of 50, or they're physically disabled or female. We currently in Pensacola have no shelter space for females, single females in Escambia County.
Yeah.
So a lot of the naysayers, if you would, have since gone to a neutral position where they don't quite speak out in our favor yet, but they also don't speak out against us anymore.
But you're not getting any cooperation with keeping these 15 people there. As a matter of fact, and I don't mean to cut you short, but we don't have a lot of time. We got to, kind of be concise. They're not wanting you there, right?
No, not at all.
And so the city and them are doing some pretty stupid stuff, and this is what I want to highlight. Tell them what they did to the benches.
So the closest park to the area, the city or the county decided to pull out all the park benches and all the picnic tables, and then told the media the reasoning was to discourage the homeless from hanging out in the park.
Right. And that was right here in Daytona too, Brenda. They pulled up all the benches downtown and did all that stuff. So I will just say the reason that I asked Mike to call is because I've looked at many homeless encampments, Mike, and I have to tell you that yours is the only one I would recommend, and only with this caveat. It's no different than a regular, any other stopgap measure, whether that be food or whatever. It's not permanent housing, but it's much more empathetic than them sleeping on the sidewalk and being chased by the police. Do you agree?
Oh, most certainly, and that was the whole point of the setting up the encampment, was that in Escambia County we have roughly 300 shelter beds to over 800 homeless people, so the math just didn't add up that there was enough places for these people to go. And, when you looked at those figures, we looked at what was the most inexpensive way to assist the population here.
Well, Mike, I hope you'll join us another Thursday. I apologize we have to go. I really screwed the schedule up. See, I'm not really good at this timing thing. I'm not a real stay-in-the-box kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I've had plenty of conversations with you. I'm well aware.
Oh, thanks. I love you too, Mike. So, yeah, all right. Well, Mike, we'll have you on again. Thanks for joining us today. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. You have a good one.
Hey, remember, everybody, you're on Tough Times with the Homeless Teacher on 1380 The Cat. We only have another minute. I can't take another. Do we have time for another call, B? Quick call. Go ahead. Hello. You're on with Tom, the Homeless Teacher.
Hey, what up?
Dude, Skid, you called. We got like less than a minute left in the show, man. I had like 5-6 minutes for you at the end, bro.
Okay, well, let's rap about whatever. I'm more than happy to call another time when,
We'll do that, but I'll tell you what. Hey, Skid, tell us what your latest piece of art was, quick.
Latest piece of art was the Skid Row Oasis, where we took a couple of palm trees, about 15 bags of sand, a hammock, a beach ball, and a couple other props, and created a beach paradise in the middle of Skid Row.
Well, you guys can see that. Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, bro, but we only have like 20 seconds left in the show. So you guys can see that on my Facebook page, and we're going to have Skid Robot on and tell you all about him again next time.
Sounds good.
Hey, guys, thanks for joining the Homeless Teacher on WELE 1380 The Cat. This is Tough Times. Remember, we try to educate you, inspire you, and piss you off.